Faith. What is this? A name or a virtue? I always liked the name, like Sting's character in David Lynch's Dune, Fade. I just like the way it floated off my tongue. I suppose many think of Christian faith, but faith isn't exclusive to Christians. I used to be big on the Bible. Some of my family members were deacons and had access to our church. I didn't understand why this religion of all religions. Especially for us, we're Native American. My grandfather, my uncles, my father were forced into Catholic boarding schools and were beaten if they spoke Sioux. They had to renounce their spirituality in favor of Christ. I thought we were doing just fine, but in the eyes of certain clubs, we weren't saved. So we went to church, but I still had my grandfather's teachings echoing in my head. We believed in a spirit world, that we coexisted with spirit. So many times when I was alone in that church, I would seek them out, try to summon them, taunt them. I guess my earliest ghost hunts were there. But despite asking and pleading, JC and his crew never appeared to me, not even in my dream time, one of the most sacred spaces to a Native American. I went to church, Bible study, youth groups, and camps. I went so many times and studied so very much that I earned a Bible of my own with my name embossed in gold lettering. Everyone was so proud, but I felt like such a spy on the house of love. I felt there were other truths, other ways one could still live in tandem with the Creator, which didn't have anything to do with the Bible, which to me as a child always seemed to be a book of ghost stories anyway. It was scary, the things that happened to these people. Outright terrifying, in fact. Once, during Sunday school, our teacher sat us around in a circle and passed out old, rusty nails. She instructed us to press a nail hard into the palm of our skin, not hard enough to cut ourselves, but hard enough to feel some measure of pain, which she informed us was nothing compared to the manner in which Christ suffered for us. And all of us kids watched with horror as she pressed her own nail into her palm, breaking the skin, a pool of blood forming, sending crimson trails down her arm as she said, "Look what he did for you." Afterward, a bandage on her hand, all smiles, she took her place in the choir and belted out Amazing Grace with tears streaming down her cheeks. From my pew, I overheard one parishioner whispering to another about her great devotion. God help me. I thought she was nuts. As I got older, I continued to attend all of these religious functions, which always felt like what I imagined an AA meeting would be like. Hello, my name's Christopher. Hi, Christopher. Sunday pancake breakfasts, rummage sales and talent shows on the church basement, ice cream socials, overnighters at the church where our youth group would spend the night. While some were having sex in some of the rooms, I was once again wandering the hallways in the dark in the middle of the night, looking for the characters from these ghost stories. So I felt I was cut from a very different cloth, but it really began to sink in at one of these rummage sales. While perusing table after card table of the parishioners' yard sale goods in the church basement one afternoon, I found a hat. I wanted it very badly. It was only a couple dollars. But in asking for it, my mother eyed me with great suspicion, because it wasn't just any hat. It was like a Peter Pan hat. It was an archer's hat. It was green and velvet and even had a yellow feather sticking out of one side. I thought it was very stylish. I would wear it all the time if it were mine. I didn't think about hats which are for boys and hats which are for girls, or other children making fun of me if I wore it to school, or the way people would look at me on the street. It was just a hat. I didn't know why I connected with it so much. I pretended to be uninterested as I picked it up and looked it over. I bet Nick Rhodes or Simon Le Bon from Duran Duran would wear one like this. So I asked them to hold it for me. I ran back to my aunt's house and acquired the money I needed. I was so excited, but after buying it, I began having all these thoughts, buyer's remorse. I knew I couldn't let anyone see me in it. I would have to wear it in secret. And I wondered what kind of world this was, where I couldn't just wear a particular fashionable hat out in public. I realized with sadness that a girl might wear this, a very strange girl, but a girl, most definitely anyone in high school play, but not a boy, and certainly not me. I was supposed to be wearing baseball caps with Star Wars or Captain America's shield on them, but I would trade them all in for this one beautiful green archer hat with its yellow downy feathers sticking out the side. My last memory of it is seeing it crushed at the bottom of a garbage bag, never having been worn. It was alive to me, It spoke to some part of me, but I let it die, crumpled and creased, its feather missing. It was like I was trying to throw some part of myself away, interred at a landfill. No ceremony, no goodbye, just a quick burial. I still think of that hat, and I still miss it. I have always been drawn to the archetype of the magic child, the puer aeternus, or eternal youth, who carries their wide imagination well into their adulthood, among other gifts. Children who grow up too quickly, who are exposed to things which cost them their innocence. I was one of these children, one of Peter's lost boys, or akin to Peter himself. All children, except one, grow up. Second star to the right, and straight on to morning. That was my mantra. All those Indian summers where I could play well into the twilight with no one calling me home. I waited for every sunset because I thought there was something in that light and those cloud formations, their brilliant oranges, pinks, and purples, like the Mutara Nebula. Maybe a place where I'm really from, because I never felt I was from around here. Again, just a spy in the house of love. But I continued to find things that spoke to me just as intently, sang to me just as intently. I grew up in Denver, in the city. While relatives were attending sundances and dancing at powwows back home in South Dakota, I was going to clubs and dancing to the latest electronic music coming out of Europe. One of these groups was Erasure, founded by Vince Clarke, also one of the founders of Depeche Mode and Yazoo. Erasure first became known in the 80s for the popular songs O L'Amour, A Little Respect, and Chains of Love, and they've successfully continued releasing new music and touring to the present day. I've danced to their music countless times. I even used to dance to them on a dance television show in the 90s called Rock TV. But before the resources of the internet unfolded as they are now, whenever Erasure were about to release a new single, I would dream about it, every time. I used to shop at this awesome little import record store in downtown Denver called Wax Trax. I would dream of visiting there, my astral body wandering the aisles, looking through the many stacks of compact discs. I would always hit the Erasure section first. I would dream about finding all these cool compilations of B-sides and remixes, and I would be so frustrated when I woke up because they only existed in my dream lodge, and I couldn't bring them into this world. Then I would remember what these dreams meant, and on my next visit to Wax Trax, I would find a brand new single waiting for me. I always thought it was because my birthday and the lead singer Andy Bell's birthday was one day apart. But it was a psychic link, a soul link, one that would ultimately teach me about faith. In 1992, after waking from another such recurring dream, I was shopping at a music land in some nearby mall, a poor substitute for Wax Trax, but that was 12 miles away. As usual, I headed straight for the Erasure section. A brand new CD gleamed up at me. It was Erasure's new collection of ABBA covers. On the front was a tantalizing bright orange sticker which read, "Music from Erasure's Phantasmagorical Entertainment Tour, coming to the US, fall 1992. What? I'd seen them a couple of years earlier in Boulder, Colorado. I stood completely transfixed. Who were these people who were able to communicate with me in such a manner? And that flamboyant lead singer? Definitely not afraid to parade around in a velvet green archer's hat. I had to go. I had to plan. I had to make it happen. Parts of my spirit were already sprinting toward meeting this goal, this phantasmagorical entertainment tour. Would they come back to Boulder? Unfortunately not. This show was a high theater concept. Like a Broadway production, there would be an entire set with working props, including a motorized tank full of synthesizers that Vince Clarke would ride, a swan cycle that Andy Bell would glide out in, several costume changes, and many professional dancers. They would only be performing at intimate theaters in select locations across the U.S. Their closest stop would be the Will Rogers Auditorium in Fort Worth, Texas, 777 miles away from my house. A lucky number. Without the aid of the internet, several phone calls had to be made. I guess I was late to the party. By the time I got through to the box office, the show was sold out. How was I going to get to Texas anyway without a car? I was just 19. All I had was my desire, my passion, my psychic link, my wide imagination. More than enough. I felt this was for me. This was all created for me, and all it would take was a leap of faith. A pilgrimage to Texas, with no ticket, no transportation, not even any previous visits there. I would really be stepping into the unknown with no guarantees. I held tight to that link and sent my psychic signal out into the universe, directly into the heart of that Mutara Nebula. My intuition instructed me to proceed as if all would be well. Erasure would be performing in Texas on December 8th at 8 p.m. I visited the bus station in downtown Denver and purchased a round-trip Greyhound ticket for the evening of the 7th, which would put me in downtown Fort Worth the evening of the show. This entire excursion would be based on faith. As an Oglala Sioux, I knew to pay attention to my dream time for any visions, for the beginning of an answer to my prayers, for that signal I sent out to return with a message received loud and clear. I had just received my Indian name earlier that year and watched as the path away from my church began to unfold. One evening, on KTCL's Modern Rock Live, I found out that Erasure were going to be interviewed to promote their tour, and listeners could call in to speak with them. I would be one of those callers, speaking with Vince Clarke and Andy Bell, grateful and hopeful that my upcoming trip would go off without a hitch. I told my family I was going on a bus with no ticket, and they assumed I was making it up. My pilgrimage sounded preposterous, but I could not afford to lose faith. I had to play the tape for them I had recorded on the radio of my speaking to Erasure. That was as much as I could prove. Other things were happening I couldn't. One evening, after leaving my dream lodge, I woke up in the middle of the night and something instructed me to turn the radio on. I did. Erasure was playing. In fact, it was a 4-song block of their music. I danced in the darkness in the middle of my room, ecstatic that I had received a sign. Message received, loud and clear. I left on a dark and frigid December evening. Walking through the living room with only a small bag, I passed my sister watching a Christmas special on television. "I'm going to see Erasure now. See you later." "Bye," she answered, dumbfounded. I walked down the icy road to my bus stop with a neighbor's electronic Christmas music echoing down the block. It would still take an hour until I reached the bus station. Enough time for doubts to enter my mind. This was it. There was no turning back. I heard my brother's voice. "Texas? For some concert? In what you're wearing? You'll be mugged." This was the early 90s, and there was a lot of interesting fashion coming out of the underground dance party rave scene in Europe. I was drawn to cyberpunk clothing, a combination of tribal and futuristic techno. For my pilgrimage, I sewed together a bunch of black suspenders in a skeletal fashion for my top. For the bottom, I simply cut up a pair of distressed jeans and I reattached them with parts of the suspenders, leaving several parts of my skin exposed. "You cannot go out at night by yourself," my mother echoed. This is the outfit I carried with me in my small bag. After arriving at the Fort Worth bus station, my plan was to change in their bathroom, store my bag in a locker, take a cab to the venue, and hope there were scalpers present. Directly after the show, I'd have to catch a cab back and return to the bus station for my return trip to Denver. My excitement was palpable as the bus pulled away into the snowy night. I was certain I was doing the right thing. All was well. Soon we were well away from the city and in open country. Snowy mounds on all sides, and the dark silhouettes of telephone and electrical poles standing tall and ominous, like giant crosses, reminding me I no longer knelt before them. In that snowy moonlight, I had a direct line to spirit. I slept often and left the bus for a smoke whenever we stopped at one of those surreal little diners in the middle of nowhere, their neon signs glinting off the chrome of our bus. I thought of the movie Dune, traveling without moving. The sand dunes of Arrakis replaced by all of the large snowdrifts from Colorado to Texas, bathed in blue moonlight through the large window pane. I'd blink and I'd be asleep, dreaming of the same scenes. And when I woke, I found that everything was still unfolding just as I dreamt. The next day, I came out of the Fort Worth bus station bathroom in my suspender outfit with people giving me double looks or even looks of disgust. I realized I was finally wearing my green velvet Peter Pan hat. Outside, I caught the looks of an African-American cabbie who exactly where I was going in my outfit. The Will Rogers Auditorium, I beamed. "Get in." As soon as he dropped me off and I exited the cab, a scalper approached me and offered me a third-row seat. It was an unforgettable show, and I ended up spending the rest of my money on tour merchandise. Unable to afford a cab back to the bus station, I just walked there instead, late at night, through the snow, past frozen streams, over icy bridges, in nothing but my suspenders outfit. But I was so warm within, and every star that glimmered in that frigid December sky was a reminder to keep wishing, praying, crossing fingers and applying faith to everything I did, regardless of how improbable the enterprise. I've met Erasure a few times in person since then. I was the only person in Colorado to ever have personalized Erasure license plates. Their fan club sent these letters around the world that spelled Erasure for fans to photograph in their hometowns. I represented Colorado and took them to Garden of the Gods and the Manitou Cliff Dwellings. I went to Texas to see them one more time when they didn't perform here, but it wasn't the same. I already knew what to do. I already had a ticket. I already knew it would work. But I've jumped headfirst into the unknown several times since then with no visible net. That's how you get what you want. I guess all of us appear to be in a state of the unknown during this pandemic. How will we come out the other side? Who will be there? Will we still have a net? I always think of something that one of the other callers said to Erasure when I was waiting to talk to them during that KTCL phone interview in 1992. You are a victory going somewhere to happen. My name is Christopher Allen Brewer, and I thank you for watching.
My name is Christopher Allen Brewer. I've appeared on several supernatural programs, including Season 2 of Paranormal 911, airing every Saturday night on Travel Channel. You can follow me on Facebook through the Future Ghost page and my website, thespiritchasers.com. Thank you for watching.